Hi, hello, it's Anne. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to a brand new video. Today I'm gonna be doing something a little bit different. This is something that I've not done in years, which is exploring and creating with polymer clay. When I was a kid, I used to do a lot of clay stuff, mainly like the non-hardening clay that you got off of IKEA in this like big tub. But when I got a little bit older, I wanted something a bit more substantial, and I discovered polymer clay. And I had this huge period where I used to make these little like bracelet charms and stuff. Mainly just cake slices and stuff like that, but this was like a huge chunk of my creative journey as a child. So exploring polymer clay again is such a nostalgic project, and I love it so much. Before we get into the project, I also want to thank Arteza for sending me this set of 42 colors, as well as the modeling clay tools and sculpting tools. I will, as per usual, always be honest in my review. But I want you guys to know that if you are interested in picking these up or anything else off of the Arteza website, I will have a discount code down below that will give you 10% off, as well as affiliate links. So, you know, if you use those links, I'm getting a small chunk as well. So those are there if you're interested, and if you're not, that's totally fine too. I gotta tell you, I love these modeling tools. I actually ended up getting the bigger set of modeling tools. I bought it with my own money because I was so impressed with the quality of these things for the price. So I got the bigger set. I think it's like a 40 something piece set as well. I'll link it down below as well. But yeah, I ended up picking that one up as well, especially to use with my ceramics, because I was just genuinely impressed with the quality. So I wanted to do something Valentine's-y, and I have these little silicone molds that I'm pretty sure I may have gotten off of Etsy a few years ago. I've never used them before though, I know that for sure because they were still packaged. But I've had them for a long time, and I decided to finally use them, and I was very inspired by Creative Rachie and her little like cupcake charms that she makes. So I did follow the steps that I remembered seeing her do. So I started out with just this red base for the cupcake liner, and then I mixed this really pale yellow, and I formed this kind of dome that I put on top, and this is gonna be like the muffin top. So basically I'm just trying to gauge the size of this, and once I'm happy with the size, I ended up going in with this like brushy tool that it's not in the smaller set, but it came in the larger set that I bought on my own. And it's like a spoolie thingy. And I ended up just using that to texture the clay, but you could totally use like a toothbrush or whatever bristly thing that you have that you can just use to do texture. So I ended up doing that just to texture the cake part to make it look more realistic. I did have two different sizes of the mold, so I decided to make a larger and a smaller cupcake for this project. And then I'm also gonna do another like super simple project once I'm done with this one. But yeah, once I was happy with the texture on top, I took some of my pastels and I just shaved them down a little bit, and then I used a paintbrush just to apply the kind of like burnt or baked look on top of the cake. And I for sure should have used a puffier, softer brush. It would have helped me a lot, I think. But I ended up using this kind of like firm tipped watercolor brush, which wasn't the ideal choice. But yeah, no, it turned out fairly well for my first time shading with pastels in this manner, so, I'm okay with it. Are they perfect? No. Are they handmade? Yes, they are. So once I'm done shading, I brought out one of my piping tips and I took this white polymer clay and my plan is to like push it through to make it look like frosting. And I struggled a lot with this because I thought like, hey, if I put a lot in there, that's gonna make it easier to push out. No, that's not correct. It was way easier to do it with way less clay because then you can actually like force it through the opening instead of just smushing it around. I don't know how else to explain that, but if you're doing this, just do smaller amounts of clay at a time and it's gonna help you out a lot. It's gonna be way easier, okay? Learn from my mistakes. So basically, once I pushed out enough of the clay that I could make kind of like this little swirly on top, I just ended up kind of rolling it on top of itself. Is that a good explanation? I don't think so, but maybe you understand what I mean. You can see what I'm doing. So yeah, I just ended up doing this little swirly on top just to make it look like cream or frosting on top of the cupcake. And I think it turned out so cute. I'm so happy I decided to go with the piping tip technique because it turned out so well. It looks like actual frosting. Once I had the frosting made, I was gonna like fuse it together and I realized that in my little drawer of old supplies, I do have Fimo liquid clay thingy. So basically it's what I just said. It's a liquid clay and you can basically use it as glue and just fuse things together, and then when you bake it, it hardens along with all of the other clay stuff. And you'll have like this bond that's gonna be way stronger than you just like pushing the clay on top. So I decided to use the liquid Fimo on top and just kind of glue them down, and then started the process of decorating. And I knew for a fact that I wanted little heart sprinkles on top, and I don't think that I realized just how tiny they had to be to look like actual sprinkles on top of these teeny tiny cupcakes. So I was fiddling forth and back a little bit, trying to figure out where I wanted to place the hearts, and I ended up just placing one little heart in the corner on each cupcake, and then on the larger cupcake I ended up just doing teeny tiny sprinkles, just like rolled the tiniest little balls that I could manage, and then I just stuck them on top of the frosting, and I think that turned out so stinking cute. Once the tops are all decorated, I decided to go in with the little faces, and this was like the most nerve-wracking part because I was so happy with how it all was turning out, and I'm like, if I'm gonna mess up, this is the part that I'm gonna mess up, so I started out with the little mouth and I rolled the thinnest little snake of clay that I could manage to roll, and I realized that I am very clumsy. I kept dropping the little pieces, I kept losing them, I kept smushing them, and yeah, I'm not used to working this tiny, and I thought that it was gonna be way easier than it was. So this was like a wake-up call, but I had a lot of fun. But it was a lot more challenging than I thought to manage all of the teeny tiny details. So I'm using this needle tool just to like smush the little facial features into place. And I decided not to use a black clay for this. I used a kind of like burgundy, like brownish red color, because I thought that the contrast with the really like pale cupcake and just the like straight up black clay would be too much of like a clash. So I ended up using just the brown clay, and I'm very happy with that decision. After I got the little mouths were the hardest part for sure. Once I got the little faces on, I decided to add in this like eye pin. Is that the correct name for this thing? I think it's an eye pin. Basically what it's gonna do is gonna help me attach a little chain on top of this, or if you want to do like a lobster clasp or something like that, just to be able to use this as a charm, or like a little planner charm or keychain, or whatever you want to do with it. So I'm adding in these little eye pins, and once I've done that, they're all ready to be baked. Once the cupcakes were in the oven, I decided I wanted to do another project that I've kind of had on my mind for a while, and it's this idea of little pins, like matching pins, like on your collar, which I think is just the cutest little accessory ever. And I thought, what cuter thing to do for Valentine's Day than to do like a little heart pins. And I also thought it would be cute to do little dangle earrings that would match them. So basically what I did was I just rolled out this smooth piece of clay, and then I ended up having this rolling pin it's kind of like a grain of rice texture. I don't know how else to explain it, but that's kind of what it looks like. And I ended up just using that just to give it some sort of interest, because I want it to be really simple. I don't want to overcomplicate this design. I think that just a simple red heart is, I'm all for the philosophy of less is more. So I didn't want to do something that's super over the top. So I thought that adding a texture instead of like some other intense color or something like that, I thought that the texture would be like just interesting enough to bring it like some oomph and not make it like just plain. So I ended up making this really rough kind of guide for me to trace the shapes of the hearts around, just because I wanted them to be roughly the same size and shape. So I end up just starting off with marking out where I want to cut the clay, and then I just ended up cutting it out and making sure that I smooth all of the edges. And that's pretty much everything that I can do in this stage. I did end up adding little eye pins to 2 of them because I'm making the earrings, as I said before. But for some reason I did not film that, so they're just gonna magically appear in the next shot. But the next step from here is to bake them, and then we're gonna attach all of the little hardware stuff. Okay, so at this point everything is baked and out of the oven, and I am using my super glue to attach these pieces. So I started out just attaching the backs on the pins and then setting them aside. That's literally all there is for the pins. It's done. It's the easiest project, and it's the cutest accessory, and this is something that I'm genuinely gonna use, and I'm kind of obsessed with them. And next I had these little, I know that there is an actual name for these little loopy thingies, but I cannot for the life of me remember what they're actually called. So, a jump ring. It's a jump ring. I'm pretty sure that's the word. But it's like a double-ish one, so it's kind of overlapping like a little keychain ring thing, just to make it a little bit extra secure. So I attached that to the eye pin that I had on the cupcakes, and then through this I'm just gonna put this little chain through, and that's all there is to the charms. Like, if you want to make it like a little bracelet dangle charm, you can just attach a lobster clasp to this and call it quits. But yeah, that's how easy that is. And I'm basically just doing the same thing for the earrings, and then attaching these little hoops that were also in the kit that I got from Arteza. So yeah, I just want to end with some thoughts on this kit. For starters, you get a lot of clay for very little money. If you compare it to the Fimo brand, for example, that's the one I've used before, so that's the one I can kind of compare it to. So you know, you get a lot of clay with this set. The downside for me is the fact that as for now, you can't buy any of the colors separately. So for example, if you run out of your favorite color, you can't replace just that color. You need to repurchase the entire set to refill that color, and for me that's kind of inconvenient, but as a beginner set, I think it's great. It gives you some tools. The tools that are included in the set are not the highest of quality, but they are also not the worst. The set of tools that you can buy, both the 20 something pack and the 40 something pack that I purchased on my own, I really do recommend. I think that they are for sure the MVP of this whole entire experience. And as I said, I had to go and buy the larger set for myself because these are great for my ceramics and modeling, and it's just incredible what you get for the amount that you pay for them. The other thing that I want to say about the polymer clay is the fact that every other brand that I've worked with has been, it's very hard. My thumbs are usually raw after I've worked with clay, just because you have to knead it so much and it's very hard, and before you kind of warm it up, it hurt my fingers. That's like my one memory from working with polymer clay, is that it hurts your hands. But this clay was very soft, and it was super pleasant to work with. I was pleasantly surprised. Something that I want to say is that it's very cold in Sweden right now, and I can imagine that if it were maybe a little bit warmer, that maybe it could be too soft. So that's something to bear in mind as well. But yeah, no, for me, this was perfect. It was soft enough that I didn't have to like sit and just knead it to warm it up for like 10 minutes before I can start working. But it also wasn't too soft that it wouldn't like hold its shape and stuff. So I'm very impressed with both the texture and the like workability of the clay. So for me, this is like, for the price that you're paying, it's 100% worth it. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say to you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day or night or evening or whatever it is as you are watching this, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching, and happy sculpting. Bye!